Welcome to John Wilde's Davenport of Doom. Today we're going to be looking at elementary school library and book fair horrors. Hello again, John Wilde here on a very scary Bleak Sunday to look at elementary school library and book fair horrors. During the 1970s and 1980s, to encourage reading, public school libraries increased the amount of books that's topics were classic horror movie characters. Along with scholastic book fairs and paper order forms that were distributed in class for the kids to take home and beg their parents for money to order. Well, that's enough of the background on this subject. Let's get a look at these books. Starting with the book I remember taking out of my school library, It's Sea Monsters, Ancient Reptiles That Ruled the Sea by David Eldridge, illustrated by Norman Knodel. This is a picture book that discusses dinosaurs, even giving us a phonetic pronunciation guide. Filled with awesome dino illustrations, it's a fun monster dinosaur book. And the plesiosaur was rumored to be the Loch Ness Monster in the 1970s. The next book that we're going to look at is Norman Bridwell's How to Care for Your Monster from 1970. This book is a 1980s reissue, but here's an illustration of what the original cover would look like. This is a fun children's book that teaches children how to care for Frankenstein monsters, mummies, vampires, and werewolves. Looking inside this book, these illustrations are just so familiar to me. Norman Bridwell also wrote Clifford the Big Red Dog, and he makes a guest appearance in this book. The next books that we'll be looking at are our compilation Movie Monster paperbacks. Before the invention of VCRs, only when television replayed these monster movies would we have a chance to see them. These books were our chance to revisit these characters and the movies. Many of these books shared the historical or mythical stories of the characters, then began discussing the films the monsters were featured in. Before children's books, like the Crestwood House Monster series, separated the characters into individual books, these compilation books are a catch-all for your monsters. My collection of books includes Great Monsters of the Movies by Edward Edelson, printed in 1974. Super Monsters by Daniel Cohen in 1977. Movie Monsters by Stephen Daniels in 1980. And an oddball book that I will include into this series, which is The Monsters of Star Trek by Daniel Cohen. This book covered all the aliens in the original series. Here's a picture of the Mikado. These paperbacks are packed with photographs of classic movie monsters, mostly broken down into characters like vampires, werewolves, mad scientists, and the living dead. I'm always surprised how much attention is given to the Hammer films in these books, but I guess it's really the newest monster movies that were available at that time. The next type of book we'll look at is the Puzzle and Quiz Book. This book is The World's Greatest Monster Quiz by Dan Karlinski and Edwin Goodgold. Quiz books were a staple of my childhood, and this book is packed with multiple choice, true and false, match the quote with the movie, fill in the blanks, and a crossword puzzle. The book also has some nice classic pictures of movie monsters, some of which I've never seen. Next up is the Oversized paperbacks, including Movie Monsters by Thomas G. Aylesworth in 1975, The Dynamite Books Monsters Hall of Fame in 1977, finally Craig B. McKee's Movie's Greatest Monsters in 1983. Like their standard paperback cousins, these books break down the characters into chapters, and due to their larger size, have great classic monster pictures to look at. Changing up my style a bit, I'd like to discuss a favorite book of mine, John Stanley's Creature Feature Movie Guide, printed in multiple updated versions since 1980. Talk about expanding your monster universe. This book introduced me to how large the movie monster film collection really is. John Stanley, a creature feature host from the San Francisco area, has reviewed hundreds of monster films in his books, also pointing out sequels, alternate titles, and remakes. This was my go-to book during the VCR age. I used this book to select my Friday night movies, and for this, I am forever grateful. I recently purchased this version and was pleasantly surprised when I found it was autographed by the author. Let's flip through the pages a little bit. So this brings us to the last series of books to look at in this video, and it's a legendary series, the Crestwood House Monster Books. Originally printed in 1977 and reprinted numerous times, these are the first 6 books written by Ian Thorne. I'm only going to discuss the Orange series, but additional Purple series books were introduced later in the 1980s. Here's a look at the covers of the 6 original books: King Kong, the Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, Godzilla, and Mad Scientists. In my collection, I have 4 of the original 6 books, 2 of which had to be rebound because they were read so much. Let's page through my copy of Dracula. And now we're paging through my copy of Frankenstein. These books are a cherished memory for me, and I really began my love of monsters through the love of these books. At the playground, we discussed monsters while we collected the Remco Mini Monsters. For me, this was a great time to be a Monsters fan. In my collection, I also have one of the 2000 versions of a Crestwood House-like book series. I remembered when I was taking my kids to the library, seeing these books on the rack, and it really took me back to the time I was a kid, and I encouraged them to take out these books. 8 different books were offered, adding the Blob and the Creature from the Black Lagoon to the collection. A little different from the Crestwood House books, these books were printed in color, although most of the pictures were still in black and white. I hope that this video has brought back some happy memories. Maybe even inspired you to go out and seek some of these books to add to your collection. Maybe even to seek out that special time in your childhood where monsters were a very important part of your life. I'd like to thank you for watching my video. Please like, share, and subscribe to catch my latest uploads. It's also been a pleasure to be added into this year's Bleak Sunday, and I'd like to thank Ray Castile for inviting me along. Check the links and search out hashtag Bleak Sunday to find more Bleak Sunday videos. And stay tuned after the credits for a special tour of my monster collection displayed for the Halloween season. Thanks a lot. Catch you later.